1985, Stick Film Set, Miami, Florida. Jimmy Nickerson was supposed to go home that night. His daughter Sarah had a ballet recital at 7 p.m. His wife Linda was making his favorite dinner. His two boys were waiting to show him their report cards. Instead, at 4:37 p.m., during a car stunt that should have been routine, Jimmy Nickerson's vehicle flipped at 60 miles per hour. The safety cage failed, and a 39-year-old father of three became another tragedy in a business that moves too fast to grieve properly. 2 weeks later, Burt Reynolds walked into a funeral home in Fort Lauderdale. He didn't have to be there. He was the star. Jimmy was a stuntman. Their worlds rarely intersected off-set. But Burt went anyway, and what he did in the weeks that followed didn't just help one family. It reminded everyone in Hollywood what it means to take care of your own. This is the story of a widow who lost everything. A mortgage she couldn't pay, 3 children she had to feed, and a phone call from a bank that changed all of their lives forever. Stay with me. Because what Burt Reynolds did when nobody was watching proves that sometimes the biggest heroes are the ones who never ask for credit. If stories like this move you, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from right now. Linda Nickerson met Jimmy in 1973. She was a nurse at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. He was a stuntman who'd broken his collarbone during a motorcycle jump and refused to take the pain medication because stunts guys don't need pills. She thought he was stubborn and ridiculous. He thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. They were married 8 months later. By 1985, they had 3 children. Sarah, 12 years old, quiet and artistic, took ballet lessons every Tuesday and Thursday. Michael, 10, played Little League Baseball and wanted to be a stuntman just like his dad. And Tommy, 8, was the family clown who could make anyone laugh even on the hardest days. Jimmy worked steadily. Not huge films, but solid work. Car chases, motorcycle jumps, fight choreography. He was good at his job, professional, safe. He'd been doing stunts for 15 years without a serious injury, until March 12, 1985. The stunt was simple. Drive a car through an intersection at 40 miles per hour, get T-boned by another vehicle, the car spins and stops. Standard stuff. Jimmy had done variations of this stunt dozens of times, but something went wrong. The angle of impact was off by 3 degrees, just 3 degrees. But at 40 miles per hour, 3 degrees is the difference between a controlled spin and a violent flip. The car went airborne, landed on its roof. The safety cage, which was supposed to protect the driver, had a weld failure. The roof collapsed. Emergency crews got Jimmy out, rushed him to the hospital, Linda's hospital. She was working that day. She heard the commotion in the ER, heard someone say, "Stuntman from the Stick production." She ran to the trauma bay and saw her husband on the table. Jimmy died 20 minutes later. Massive internal injuries. Nothing they could do. Linda stood in that hospital hallway, still in her scrubs, and felt her entire world collapse. 12 years of marriage, 3 children, a mortgage, bills, a future that had just disappeared in 40 seconds of film that would probably never even make it into the movie. The production company sent flowers, offered condolences. The insurance company started their investigation. Paperwork, forms, waiting. But Linda couldn't wait, because bills don't stop when tragedy strikes. The funeral was held on March 19th at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Fort Lauderdale. Over 200 people came, stuntmen from across Florida, crew members from films Jimmy had worked on, friends, family, neighbors. Linda sat in the front row with her 3 children. Sarah, trying to be strong for her younger brothers. Michael, crying silently into his mother's shoulder. Tommy, too young to fully understand why Daddy wasn't coming home. Near the back of the church, mostly unnoticed, sat Burt Reynolds. He'd driven down from the production office in Miami. No publicist, no assistant. Just Burt in a dark suit, sitting quietly, watching a family grieve. After the service, people gathered in the church hall. Coffee and sandwiches that nobody really wanted, but everyone pretended to eat, because that's what you do at funerals. Burt approached Linda carefully. She recognized him immediately. Everyone did, but she was too exhausted for starstruck moments. "Mrs. Nickerson, I'm Burt Reynolds. I'm so sorry for your loss." Linda nodded. "Thank you for coming. Jimmy was a good man, professional, one of the best. He loved his work." Linda's voice was flat, emotionless, the voice of someone who's cried so much they have nothing left. Burt looked at the 3 children standing nearby. Sarah, protective of her brothers. Michael, still wiping his eyes. Tommy, eating a cookie, the only thing that felt normal. "How are you managing?" Burt asked quietly. Linda almost laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh that comes when the question is so overwhelming you don't know where to start. "I don't know yet. The insurance company says it'll take months to process the claim. Maybe longer. They're investigating whether the cage failure was Jimmy's fault. Somehow." She paused. "It wasn't. Jimmy checked everything. He always did." "What do you need?" The question caught Linda off guard. "What? Right now, what do you need most?" Linda looked at this movie star standing in a church hall, asking what she needed, and something broke inside her. The wall she'd been building since March 12th cracked. "Time," she whispered. "I need time to figure out how to keep my house, keep my kids fed, keep everything from falling apart. But I don't have time. The mortgage is due in 3 weeks. I'm a nurse. I make enough to help, but not enough to carry everything alone. Jimmy's income was—" She couldn't finish. Burt pulled out a pen. "What's your bank?" "First National." "Account number?" "Mr. Reynolds, I can't—" "Please, just write it down." Linda wrote her mortgage account number on a napkin, handed it to Burt. He folded it carefully, put it in his pocket. "I'm going to take care of this, but I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Don't give up. Not on yourself. Not on those kids. Jimmy wouldn't want that." Linda nodded. Couldn't speak. Couldn't process what was happening. Burt shook her hand, nodded to the children, and left. If you're finding this valuable, hit that subscribe button right now. Let me know in the comments what you think Burt did next, because what happened 3 weeks later was something Linda never expected. 3 weeks passed. Linda went back to work, picked up extra shifts. Her sister helped with the kids. Sarah learned to cook basic meals. Michael tried to be the man of the house, even though he was only 10. Tommy asked every night when Daddy was coming home, until he finally stopped asking. The mortgage payment was due April 3rd. Linda had exactly $800 saved. The payment was $2,300. She called the bank, explained the situation, asked for an extension. The bank manager was sympathetic but clear. "We can give you 30 days. After that, we have to start foreclosure proceedings." 30 days. Linda lay awake that night doing math that never worked. Selling the car would cover 2 months, maybe 3. Then what? On April 5th, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Nickerson." "Yes? This is David Morrison, Mortgage Department Manager at First National Bank." Linda's stomach dropped. "I know I'm late. I have the extension until—" "Mrs. Nickerson, I'm not calling about a late payment. I'm calling because there seems to be an error in our system." "What kind of error?" "Your mortgage is showing as paid in full. The entire balance. $47,000. Paid on April 3rd. Linda sat down. "That's impossible." That's what I thought, but I've checked 3 times. The payment cleared. Came from an account belonging to Burton L. Reynolds. Silence. Mrs. Nickerson, are you there? He paid my mortgage? The entire amount, $47,213, plus next year's property tax, in full. Linda couldn't breathe, couldn't think. $47,000, the number that had been crushing her for 3 weeks. Just gone. There must be a mistake. No, ma'am. I spoke with Mr. Reynolds' accountant this morning. He was very clear. Your mortgage is paid. You own your home. After Linda hung up, she sat in her kitchen for an hour. Just sat there, staring at nothing. 3 kids playing in the other room. No mortgage hanging over their heads. The house they grew up in, secured. She tried calling Burt, got his agent. The agent said, Mr. Reynolds prefers to handle personal matters privately, but he wanted me to tell you, Jimmy took care of you for 12 years. This is Jimmy taking care of you for the next 12. Linda cried for the first time since the funeral. Not sad tears, grateful tears. The kind of tears that come when someone reminds you that good people still exist. But the story doesn't end there. Because 10 years later, something happened that connected everything full circle. Make sure you're subscribed, because what happened next proves that kindness creates ripples that last for generations. 1995, 10 years after Jimmy's death. Sarah was 22, graduating from nursing school, following in her mother's footsteps. Tommy was 18, studying business at Florida State, and Michael was 20, working in the film industry, as a stuntman. Against his mother's wishes, against every logical argument, Michael Nickerson decided to honor his father's legacy by doing the work that killed him. But he did it right, trained extensively, learned from the best, became obsessive about safety protocols, and got good enough that at 20 years old, he was getting called for professional stunts. His first major film, a Burt Reynolds production shooting in Florida. When Michael showed up to set on his first day, Burt was there. 59 years old now, still working, still making movies. Michael introduced himself to the stunt coordinator. Michael Nickerson reporting for work. The coordinator checked his clipboard. You're the motorcycle jump specialist? Yes, sir. Good. We need someone for the bridge sequence. Motorcycle off a ramp, 15-foot gap, land clean. Think you can handle it? Yes, sir. A voice behind him. Nickerson? Michael turned. Burt Reynolds was walking toward him. Yes, Mr. Reynolds? Jimmy Nickerson's son? Michael straightened up. Yes, sir. Burt looked at him for a long moment. How's your mother? She's good. Still nursing at Jackson Memorial. And your siblings? Sarah's graduating nursing school next month. Tommy's at FSU. Burt nodded slowly. Your dad was one of the best. I've been told you're pretty good too. I try to be, sir. You know what happened to your father, the cage failure. You sure you want to do this work? Michael met his eyes. My dad died doing what he loved. He taught me that doing something dangerous isn't the same as being reckless. I'm careful, but I'm not afraid. Burt studied him, then extended his hand. Welcome to the set. Your dad would be proud. Over the next 2 weeks, Burt watched Michael work. Watched him check equipment 3 times. Watched him refuse a stunt that wasn't safe. Watched him be professional, cautious, and brave in equal measure. On the last day of shooting, Burt pulled Michael aside. You're going to have a good career. You've got your father's instincts but better judgment. That's a rare combination. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. That means a lot. Burt paused. Your mother ever tell you what I did after your dad passed? Michael shook his head. She doesn't talk about that time much. Too painful. I paid off your house. Didn't want her to lose everything on top of losing Jimmy. Michael went still. That was you? That was me. Why? because your dad would have done the same for my family. That's what we do in this business. We take care of our own." Michael's voice cracked. "Mr. Reynolds, I don't know how to thank you. That house, that's where we grew up, where we kept Dad's memory alive. If we'd lost that—" "You didn't lose it, and you're not going to. You're going to have a good career. Take care of your mom. Take care of your brother and sister. That's how you thank me." 10 years after Jimmy Nickerson died, his son stood on a film set, shaking the hand of the man who'd saved his family when no one was watching. Burt Reynolds died in 2018. Michael Nickerson, by then a respected stunt coordinator, attended the funeral. A reporter asked him, "What did Burt Reynolds mean to you?" Michael thought about that night in 1985, about his mother's tears, about the house they didn't lose, about a career his father would have been proud of. "Burt Reynolds taught me that being a man isn't about being tough. It's about being there when someone needs you. My dad died working on his film. Burt made sure we didn't lose everything else, too. He didn't have to do that. Nobody would have blamed him if he'd just sent flowers and moved on. But he didn't. He showed up. And that taught me more about character than any stunt ever could." Linda Nickerson, 73 years old in 2018, was asked the same question. Her answer was simpler. Burt Reynolds gave us time. Time to grieve. Time to heal. Time to rebuild. In 1985, I thought our lives were over. Instead, we got 30 more years in the home where my husband's memory lives. My children graduated college, built careers, started families. All because one man decided that a stuntman's family mattered as much as a movie star's. The house in Fort Lauderdale still stands. Linda lives there still. Sarah visits every Sunday with her own kids now. Tommy brings his family for holidays. And Michael, whenever he's in Florida, stops by. On the wall in the living room hangs a photo from 1995. Burt Reynolds and Michael Nickerson on set, both smiling. A son and the man who made sure that son had a chance to follow his father's dream safely. This story isn't about money. $47,000 sounds like a lot, but to Burt Reynolds in 1985, it wasn't going to change his life. It's about seeing someone in pain and deciding to do something about it. About understanding that when tragedy strikes, time is the most valuable gift you can give someone. Time to breathe. Time to think. Time to figure out what comes next. Jimmy Nickerson died doing a job he loved. Burt Reynolds made sure his family didn't have to lose everything else, too. And 30 years later, Jimmy's son carries on his legacy, teaching younger stuntmen the same thing Burt taught him. In this business, we take care of our own. If this story moved you, subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the most important thing you can do for someone isn't always the biggest thing. Sometimes it's just showing up when nobody else does. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.